Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Red Wine and Cigarettes. It's Popo, Sbusi, Linz, and tonight we've got Z Ube in the building. Welcome, Z. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Z, before we get into the show, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, Z is a producer of a lot of content that's still to go on air because our broadcasters are very slow, but it's getting there. But most of my content is based on, you know, something that happened in my life that's literally about like the truth will fix everything, So if it's the truth, whatever the shows are about, one is Asringivar, which I do with Mpumi Ranaka, and which is literally Asringivar, and it touches on a lot of subjects, just outing the truth, and things like that. But it's I'm that guy. I'm a producer, I'm a writer, I'm a poet, and everything is about the truth.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. My favorite thing about Z is his writing. Z is a beautiful, beautiful writer. Anyway, tonight's episode is understanding polyamory. How do you say it? Polyamory? Understanding polyamory. I think we felt it was an important subject to speak about because I think there are a lot of misconceptions around it. I don't think I'm the one who's qualified to define it, because I looked up a lot and I thought that it was the same thing as an open relationship. So Z, as someone who is familiar with I don't want to call it the lifestyle, you know what I mean? Because it makes it sound like this other thing, but what is polyamory?
Polyamory, in short, is being in relationships that require you to have more than a single partner. A lot of the time it is defined by people's sexual orientation. You can imagine if a person is bi, that they will lean to having, to be excited, by both genders, and repressing any kind of longing for anything is always dangerous. And what ends up happening when it's not done openly is that the person ends up doing the thing we call cheating, And so sexual orientations actually have a very big role to play in whether people want polyamory in their life or not, Some people are a gay person who gets into a straight marriage is constantly going to try find other ways to satisfy being gay, and those ways end up looking very shady and addictive or look like an addiction because he's not able to just say, look, I like both sexes, or I like this sex, or you know what I mean? And what ends up happening is the person ends up cheating and breaks up marriage and blah, 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 and all of that stuff. So polyamory is something that's modern, but people are looking into it a little bit more in order for people to satisfy their cravings in peace.
Okay. Okay. Sis, because I know you, I know that you are monogamous. Do you think that polyamory is anything that you at any point could accommodate, look at as a possibility in a relationship, or what are your thoughts?
So unfortunately for me, I in the words of Miss Erica Badu, my eyes are green. So I'm an extremely jealous type. I don't think it would work for me. For me personally, I had nothing against polyamory, as you guys know. I'm super chilled, but for me, it cannot work for me. I cannot comprehend sharing someone else, and there definitely has to be an element of sharing within polyamory, especially if you're honest and truthful within those relationships. So for me personally, I could never ever see myself being in a polyamorous relationship for those reasons. Probably alone is that inability to share. I'm not an only child, but I certainly behave one when I'm in a relationship.
Yeah. Z, you wanted to say something?
I think the question that should be asked is not necessarily whether someone is polyamorous or monogamous, because we don't ask people that actually at the beginning of a relationship. We kind of assume that people are monogamous when we meet someone, you know. And the real question would be, Sibs, have you been given the option to be either polyamorous or monogamous? Do you know what I mean? Because people are not given the option. People are not given the option from the onset. You know, it might not. I certainly believe it's something that was come as a result of years and centuries of religion. And I'm not attacking Christianity only. I'm attacking all religion. You know, it's funny how we have the ability to criticize how patriotic religion is in its design, but we will not criticize how those morals that religion has given people over centuries. You know, if we talk about brainwashing that happens in a cult in a matter of weeks, just think about the amount of brainwashing you can do over centuries of like a religion that keeps on making someone feel like there is something wrong with you if you are attracted to another person. You know, there is something wrong with you if you ever feel like, you know, you should be okay being attracted, even let alone having done anything. Just being attracted to another person is supposedly wrong. It's a sin. You know what I mean? So hence I say that I think the question is, has anybody ever given you an option to be anything but monogamous?
Yeah. Linz, has anyone ever given you the option? And and if they were to offer that option, what's your stance on that?
Over recently, but over just over a year or so, I've actually been, I've had a lot of conversations with Palisa and a lot of my friends about it. I have been basically reading up about and trying to be informed about polyamory. I didn't know it was called polyamory at the time. I just knew polygamy and open relationships. The reason why is I was saying to someone that I actually found out that I've been in monogamous relationships most of my life, actually pretty much all my life. And when in some of the relationships, when I found out that there was infidelity because we had both decided that we want to be exclusive, there wasn't a part of me that actually felt jealous or unhappy that the person was with someone else. But however, what did upset me was that we had an agreement and you broke that agreement and you went behind my back. Why didn't you say anything? And in two of the relationships, we continued to have relationships when I knew that they were with other people. And the people that know me know that I identify as pansexual. So I do have that place where I can be in a relationship with a man, but also find a woman attractive. But it's not based on the genitals or sexual desire. The first thing is I fall in love with the soul before I fall in love with the package that the soul comes in. And so for me, I wasn't given the option, but I gave myself the option because I started to explore within myself. Why am I asking these questions? I started asking myself a lot of things. I did a lot of introspection. And I came to the conclusion that I believe that polyamory is something that would work for me, because I've been in the relationship, but by default, a polyamorous relationship, but simply because I was put in that situation and I didn't feel like I needed to leave. And, I wasn't angry about it. I wasn't resentful. I was just like, this works. I still feel like I get what I need from you. So, let's continue.
Yeah. In doing my research for the show, I realized that most people are not educated about what polyamory is. They assume that it's what it isn't. They assume that it's the same as an open relationship. And a lot of people think that it's an excuse for one to be promiscuous. There's a comment that came up just now from, I think it's Mac G. He says, would polyamory ever feature as a choice beyond it being just about sex in a relationship? So what I read up was that an open relationship only allows for your partner to engage sexually with another person, but nothing beyond that. So Z, how is polyamory different to open relationships?
Okay. I like an easier definition of open relationships, which is basically an open relationship, right, is a relationship between two people who will be openly honest with each other. They do not necessarily have to be honest to the partners that they have other relations with. So for instance, if I'm open with you and I'm in a relationship with you, I can then agree with you to go out, act like I'm not married or act like I'm single and have a one-night stand. And that is our agreement. But the one-night stand person doesn't have to know that that was our agreement, right? So that's an open relationship. Polyamory requires everybody that is involved to be open. And to be as open as possible, really, and requires and takes into regard the feelings that everyone has in order to be in that relationship, To answer the question, though, is that it's funny because a lot of people think that polyamory has to do only with sex, but sex is probably like 1% of why you become polyamorous. You have this sexual attraction. It then defines how you live the rest of your life. You still have to go shopping. You still have to raise kids. You still have to go to work. You still have to, and all of those things now have to be done with the understanding of more than just one partner. Do you know what I mean? So how do you deal with being married with person who has kids and then you're bi and they have kids and you have kids and then those kids have to come together, and how do you have to explain all of that? That's not even a sexual thing to try and relate to, but you try and sort of, find a way to inculcate all of that. And each polyamorous relationship, as Ulins was saying earlier, your sexual orientation defines what you end up allowing as a polyamorous relationship. So every polyamorous relationship will be different. They will not be the same. And it is not an orgy like people think it is. Do you know what I mean? You're not sitting there and just having sex all the time. You actually have to work on real things.
Yeah. Lens wanted to say something?
In response or addition, whatever, to what he was saying, what I really appreciate about the environment that polyamory gives people is that you are given the space to be honest about who you are, what your desires are, and it's a safe space. And a lot of people, and like I said, I've been in relationships, but there's very few times that I found myself in a position where I feel safe to express my desires and to express what I want, be it something in me that is spiritual that needs to be fulfilled. Because I'm a layered person, and there's some things that I can talk about with Sibs that Z wouldn't understand. And for me, Sibs and I could develop a really beautiful, intimate relationship that has nothing to do with sex, but we speak the same language with certain things, but that does not take away from the value that Z adds to my life. You know, those are things I appreciated, and that it depends on the people involved. You can discuss what works for you and keep discussing going forward. Okay, so this is where I am, and this is what I feel I need, or this, you know, and like work on it. People think like just in the beginning, we decide this is what we're going to do, A lot of things, like as we know as adults, in theory, are much better than when you actually practice them.
Yeah.
Because now you're dealing with people. Yes, and we're dealing with insecurities, we're dealing with issues from our childhood, we're dealing with so much. So this might be something that you can agree to now, but when we do it, then you're like, no, actually, Linz, I feel uncomfortable. And what I like is that this environment gives you the space to come back and be like, Lindy, actually, I know I said I was fine with this, but I don't like it. And then we start to discuss, okay, what about it? And then where's our common ground? People just think it's like, this is what we're doing, and this is like take it or leave it type situation. What I liked was that you can adjust it to suit what the people in the relationship need.
I mean, I think that for the longest time, I was quite set in like Sibs being like, I only want to be with one person and they can only be with me, and it is an ownership thing, and. But you know, life and its engagements teach you a lot. I mean, I've known Z for quite a few years, you know, and I think that he could tell you that I'm very different to how I was when he first met me. You know, there was a man that I met some years ago, and he and I have had an on and off, I'm going to use the word entanglement, for years, you know. For as long as this has been happening, he's always had a partner, but I would only engage with him when I was single, right? At first, I felt really bad about it. You know, I was just like, why are you doing this? Like, this guy's cheating. But it's been so many years that I got to a point where I was just like, why is this illicit? Within this relationship that isn't exclusive or whatever it is, there is so much consistency, there is love, there is respect. We build each other, we encourage each other, we challenge each other. So how can it be wrong? It's wrong because he has a woman, right? And she can't know about this because, you know, and I almost wished for a situation where, because I've always said to my friends, I'm not here to disrupt. I don't feel the need for it to be official on paper. It's enough as it is. And it's actually, yes, it may be 3-4 times a year when it's happening. That's not its foundation. It's a foundation of love. So that then made me ask myself, so if this guy was your man and he had this other thing with this girl that was, they say, pure, I can't say I know the answer, because also I have always operated as quite a jealous woman. Like, you step around me, you out the door now. I am not going to be sharing my penis with anyone else. That's always been my stance, you know. Z, I'm curious to know, what is your take on jealousy?
Well, first of all, everyone gets jealousy wrong. The definition of jealousy is something you want that you don't have, right? What people call jealousy in the context of a relationship is actually possessiveness. And so that's just the definition. And the only way I found this out, by the way, is that, you know, when you're polyamorous, it's funny, when you're polyamorous, you find the groups that talk about their feelings, how they, you know, you find support groups, you know, And this is where I found this out, because I was like, you know what? People used to ask me, they'd be like, how would you feel if your partner did that to you? You know? And just from my motor skills, and automatically I wanted to say, I'll feel bad. But the truth is, I didn't feel anything. It didn't make me feel bad. I wouldn't mind my partner going out there and having, as long as they come home, because they're my partner. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They, like, what you want me to feel is not jealousy, is you want me to want to possess that person, and that person be mine alone. Do you know what I mean? Whereas jealousy is, and I do feel jealous, I feel jealous if I want someone and someone else can have them and I can't. Then I'm jealous. You know, then I'm jealous of what that person gets to experience because I want to experience it. But if I also get to experience it, that's not jealousy. That's, so I don't have that possessive bone in me that wants to own the person, as long as I can have my time with that person. Do you know what I mean? Yes, it gets complicated. Yes, you have to discuss and talk about, because if your person now has to, for instance, have another partner, then you have to share time. You know what I mean? And whose time is more important? And I want my time. I want you to go out with me tonight or something like that. And those things are just natural. Those things are not necessarily, those things are things we have to deal with, even if we are not polyamorous.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's where people get it wrong a little bit, I think. But I mean, to answer your question, jealousy has been completely misunderstood in the context of relationship. It's not jealousy, it's possessiveness.
Oh, wow. Sibs, your thoughts? No, he's describing your stance as possessiveness, not jealousy.
Yeah, I've never ever thought of myself as possessive. I think that's also because the word possessive feels a bit aggressive. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I don't see myself as an aggressive person. But within what has been explained, I understand how I am a possessive person. Yeah. But also, I think to be possessive, I'm gonna do this because I don't want it to be a negative thing, because it feels right now being possessive is being made like a negative. I feel like it's a negative thing. Does that make sense in this context? Whereas when a man does something, then he's possessive, and I don't like that, you know. And when you guys use the word possessive, I go, do I behave like that? And I don't. So I think there's a part of me in my head that's like struggling a bit to say, but I don't monitor where someone goes and what are you doing, and you know what I mean. I don't do things that I regard as what possessive is. All I want is for me to be with that one person and for that one person to be with me. But and it's so funny because it's something that I've been struggling with for a bit, is that most relationships, it isn't that way, right? I've only had one relationship where the person was honest enough to say, and they didn't want to be polyamorous per se, but they wanted to be polygamous. But their polygamy was not the traditional polygamy of living in separate houses. They wanted us to all live together, and me to also have a relationship with that person. And I just went, and for me, that's more polyamory. And you guys can say yes or no, but it feels a bit more like polyamory. And that's the only person that's ever been honest with me and said, this is how it is. Generally, guys just cheat, right? And then most girls just stay. And then it becomes that thing of, I'm ignoring it. And you know, as women, I hear a lot of married women that say things like, as long as I don't know, I'm fine, you know. And I want to go, that's a level of polyamory, but it's not because you're not you don't know the truth. So there's something in the back of your head, there's a niggling thing in the back of your head. But polyamory requires truth. So I don't know. I'm for once in my life, I'm rather speechless. I'm going in my head. I'm trying to figure out: am I a possessive person? Because if I am, that's problematic. But it's Z.
Z.
Look, sorry, I have to. I actually wanted to stop you at the beginning because that's the other thing, right? As much as a polyamorous person would want to be accepted, in the exact same way, being possessive is not a negative. Is not a negative thing. It's just you have. What would be the word you would use for a kid that doesn't share with their toys?
An asshole?
Why would you say that? No, what is that word? But that's all it is. What I'm trying to say is that
it's selfish, which is also negative. It's selfish because we teach our kids to share. We teach our kids to share, and when they don't share, you say they're selfish. You read articles about moms whose kids are selfish, and they go, "I'm sorry that my child is this way." We apologize because our kids do not share. It's a negative thing to not share. So a kid that does not share their toys is selfish. That's what society says.
I'm getting it wrong. I'm trying to find a non-negative word for possessive, for being, let's say, call it monogamous, right? There is nothing wrong with being monogamous as well. Just as there is nothing wrong with being polyamorous. The rift here comes about as a result of what society expects of people and what it has, and therefore hasn't given people options to be honest. So, for instance, if I come to you and I meet you on the first go, you'll automatically assume that this person is looking to have a monogamous relationship with you until you find out, be it on that first meeting or a few weeks down the line, that he's actually polyamorous and he wants to have other girlfriends and whatever. And something is going to feel like it's not right. But it doesn't. Neither of those two people are wrong. They just need to find themselves in others. And so, I think this is the point where most people find polyamory through experiences, like what Ulindi was going, through experiences and find their way through it. And then you find out that, there's this community that exists and it's an acceptable practice. And, oh, wow, I can do this too, And I think the fight here happens because when the minority, which is the polyamorous people who are seen as doing something completely untoward, try and explain why they have the right to exist in a space where monogamy is being pushed, then there's resistance from people who have every right to be monogamous. There's nothing wrong with it. And it would be much easier if people could meet and say, "Hi, I am polyamorous. How are you?" Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? And therefore, people have choices. And you can choose to say, "Actually, sorry, man, I'm monogamous," And then we go our separate ways. But what happens currently is that even polyamorous people are forced to lie to themselves and to the people that they live with about being monogamous just to be with a person. You know what I mean?
Z, I hear what you're saying right now. I'll get to you now, Liz. But I watched another interview that you had where I heard you explicitly say that monogamy is, what did you say? You didn't say unnatural. You said it's unrealistic.
Unrealistic.
You said it's unrealistic. Okay, so you're saying there's nothing wrong with being monogamous, but I think you do think there's something wrong with being monogamous?
Oh, no, I think monogamy is completely unrealistic. I am yet to find, because okay, monogamy in its true form and in its true meaning is supposed to actually be a person who finds a mate for life.
Yeah.
Right? So you find a person, you become with that person. If that person dies, you don't find another partner. It's not switching from one partner and another partner. We've done it. Like how Christianity has over the years sort of been designed to kind of accommodate our sins. You know what I mean? Like they say you can't steal, but you can, unless you're doing good. You can't lie, but a white lie surely is fine, And so we've sort of redefined monogamy according to what we want as society, But monogamy is actually a partner till for the rest of your life, till death, And if that partner dies, you shouldn't be with another partner because you shouldn't be able to be attracted to another person. Do you know what I mean? That is unrealistic to me. Do you know what I mean? So effectively, everybody who is who's practicing being with different partners in their one life is not monogamous. Because if you have the ability to get over one partner and go to another, then you had the ability all along. And that's why to me, look, it might feel like I'm judging, but I feel like a lot of people are lying to themselves about the experiences that they are having in their real lives. Do you know what I mean? And I just got tired of lying. I got tired of lying to myself. I got tired of lying to the people I'm with. I literally tried monogamy for years and failed and hated myself. The funny thing, and sorry, you said, Sibu, you said something about men cheat and women just stay. Women cheat. Lots of women cheat. It's just lots of men cheat, but women cheat just as much. Do you know what I mean? And the funny thing is that we think that men do not beat themselves up about it. Do you know what I mean? When they do that, and you can't keep beating yourself up. You can't live in a world where you start hating yourself, hating your own actions, and not understanding why you're doing these actions. There's nothing as stupid as asking a man, why did you do that? And he says, I don't know. And he really doesn't know. It's like a childish answer, So I get really, this is, so yeah, but it's those experiences. And I was just tired of lying. I was tired of saying, I am not attracted to that person, or I don't want to turn my head and look at that girl who's really beautiful and I'm attracted to her, And sometimes, and this is the case even within polyamory, you might meet a person, as you said also, Lindy, and find that the relationship does not have to get sexual, but it becomes very intimate. And even in monogamous relationships, that is considered cheating still. Do you know what I mean? And what do you do with that? If your person doesn't listen to the same music as the other person, what do you do when you find someone that is livening you, making you alive inside in relation to, be it your writing, be it your music, be it something? Now you must let that person go because you're supposed to be monogamous with this other person who doesn't even like your music. That's not fair. Sorry.
Let me say, she wanted to say something, but like I was saying to her yesterday, I was like, so basically, with monogamy, they say like there's the 80-20 rule. So maybe with polyamory, you can have it all. You've got a 40, you've got a 40, you've got a 20, so you've got 100. And it's all right. Sorry,
my goodness. Wow, a lot was said. I actually just wanted to touch on what Z was saying. just now, well, at the beginning of what he just started to explain to us, that I really don't think that us or anyone should take the stance on monogamy versus polyamory, simply because we all have rights and we all need to be afforded the freedom to walk in our truths, however those truths however those truths are manifested, as long as you are not hurting or murdering, or do you get what I mean? Like those basic common human things that we need to adhere to. Because I know I was monogamous for a while and I didn't think anyone needed to judge me for it. So now that I'm not, no one has the right to judge me for it too. And as long as you are expressing yourself in a way that is respectful to the other person, I by no means believe that polyamory is about being like, hey, sapaze once, yonkinto, you know. It's a beautiful relationship, and you decide that you want to be afforded the freedom to explore various parts of yourself. And if you can't accommodate that part, then we talk about it, you know. And then, but I love the transparency. And for me, this whole cheating business, I've seen, I might be wrong. I mean, this is my stance. I have never seen, I was telling my mom the other day, I have never seen a relationship, long-term or a marriage, where one of the people has not cheated. And that's when I said to my mom, I was like, so I had to look, I started thinking, I was like, is this realistic? Because society, and from generation to generation, in all families, you are taught that this is how it should be, and this is what looked like the perfect thing to aspire to. But I was like, but there must be something we're missing if almost 90% of the people we know have experienced infidelity within the system. That's just me, and that's how I came to the conclusion that I came to. And with that, a lot of things had to be worked out in me, like jealousy, insecurities, and all of that. Like, you really need to be able to look at yourself and look at the issues you have and understand who you are and what will work, what won't work for you. So I definitely don't subscribe to monogamy versus polyamory, because I understand why monogamous people are monogamous. There's a lot going on, and it's just how we're raised. Like, it's almost like trying to say to a duck, are you a duck or you're a chicken? Like, you know what I mean? It's like you're taught that this is who you are. And until you've decided that you want to evolve into what you know you are, then there's not much we can say about that. Let people be.
So I guess guys haven't been lying when women ask them, but like, why did you do this? Am I not enough? And he says, but it has nothing to do with you, darling. You know, so maybe, you know, maybe they weren't lying. Maybe they were actually telling the truth. But we have this ownership thing, and it's like, you have taken something that belongs to me and shared it with someone else. But Sips, you want to say?
I think there's something that Z said earlier, that if in life you could meet someone and say, hi, I'm polyamorous, hi, I'm monogamous, it would completely change the world, because people would know exactly where they stand at that moment and whether or not to go into it. And I think that there's a lot of truth. What I love about polyamory is that whole truth, right? So I have a question and a request. The question is, if you are polyamorous, and so let's say I'm polyamorous and Z and I are in a relationship and we're both polyamorous, and then I meet Linz, do I tell her on go that, let's say we meet somewhere, and then I come back and I say to Z, oh, there's this girl, I had such a great connection with her, I would like to pursue something with her. Do I then go back to Linz and say, and is this how it happens? The question is this how it happens? Do people then go back and say, Linz, I'm actually in a polyamorous relationship, me and you had a vibe, can we be in a polyamorous relationship? So is it honest from go, generally in polyamorous relationships when they start, or does it take some time? Secondly, I would like a lot of people to reconsider and think about in their heads, and this is a plea to the black man actually. Is it polygamy that you want, or is it polyamory that you want?
Mm.
There's a lot of people that have talked about polygamy, and for me, it sounds like polyamory. In terms of the freedoms and the truth, etc., etc. So a request to the guys out there: think about it. You know, I have no issues with polyamorous people. You already know what my leaning is, but just is it polyamory or is it polygamy? And because guys will say, no, I can deal with you being in a relationship, and I'm like, okay, so then it's polyamory. No, I want to be polygamous because there's this thing of here's my cows, all my women here with me. And so the question: how does the polyamorous relationship start when you start to bring in another person? Is it, what are the these are things that monogamous people think about.
You know, one of the most interesting things I ever found at one of my polyamory meetings was that a lot of the things that they discuss there, you'd think they get together and talk about orgies and get together and then have sex all together and whatever, right? But I was stunned at my first meeting, and they discuss emotions. They discuss cheating within polyamorous, because cheating still happens within polyamorous relationships, right? They discuss cheating. They discuss jealousy. They break down and one of the things that I was told was that a lot of the things that we have issues with our partners doing have nothing to do with the partner, have everything to do with ourselves, right? And we end up having to sort of like, they described it to me as a ball of elastics, where you need to unravel each elastic to actually find out why, because jealousy is the ball of elastic, right? And one of those elastics is insecurity, your insecurity about yourself, or you don't feel as good as you don't think you are sure in your place. Will this person come back if they have to experience something out there? Another thread could be anything from, financial stability. Do you know what I mean? If the person you're meeting is wealthier and more comfortable and things like that, that has nothing to do with what that person is experiencing, but something that you lack within yourself, right? And the more you remove, the more you learn about yourself. And one of the sort of side effects of becoming or accepting that I'm polyamorous has been how much I've had to learn about myself. And I was like, so a lot of the time in arguments, I find myself saying things like, actually, no, you didn't do anything wrong. Actually, that's related to something I'm very insecure about that happened in my past. Because you just did something there that reminded me of this and actually had nothing to do with you. You didn't do anything wrong. You're cool. Go on. This is something I have to deal with to understand why it's making me feel like this. Do you know what I mean? And the longer my relationship, and I'm so fortunate to have a person that I can experience this with live, and I am unfolding and I'm discovering myself and I'm discovering my weaknesses, my strengths, where I'm confident, where I'm not. Do you know what I mean? And all of these things come up because you're having to face actual truth. You're having to face not over glazing things, because when a person goes out there and does their own thing, they've done nothing to hurt you. That's the truth. That's the honest truth. What hurts you is the possibilities of what that action might come with. Do you know what I mean? Which your insecurities will always lead you to experiencing. And this, I'm saying this in the sense that just because you're polyamorous doesn't mean you won't feel those things, but you'll start to understand them better. You'll start to understand where they come from, and you'll start to understand yourself a little bit better. And these are things that even people that are in monogamous relationships should actually experience. So that's, I don't know if I've answered your question in relation to that, but it would be a better world where people had to meet each other and then introduce themselves as like that, right? I certainly do it. I do it from the word go. You know, sometimes it frazzles people. Sometimes people but I feel like that complete honesty allows things to go smoother. But it's different for different people, and people are going through different journeys of self-discovery. So you have to allow someone the opportunity to deal with that thing that they need to deal with in their own time and in their own way.
Well,
you know, there was a few months ago, or was it end of last year? A friend of mine was telling me about how her friend had been seeing this guy for a couple of years. They got a house together. She had kids, you know, he stepped in as a father figure. They were happy. And he'd go away for work on weekends, but it wasn't work. And one weekend he went and he got married. And he came back and she was upset. And she was like, I heard that you did this. And he was like, darling, I asked you what you wanted. You said you want stability. You said you want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you not have all those things? I am giving you everything that you said you wanted. I'm not saying he was right, but he wasn't lying. You know what I mean? It made me think back to a situation I had where I was with this guy. He was great, man. He was good to me. He was good to me. And what broke us was that I found out that he shared his penis with someone else. And I became a functioning alcoholic, and I was throwing dishes at him, and I was like, oh, you know, and when I think about it now, I'm just like, I feel like that was mental illness, you know, because outside of the information that he had been with someone else, we were complete. He added not that he completed me, there's no such thing, but I was happy. I was fulfilled. I didn't feel neglected. He was attentive. He understood my love languages. But because he had shared his flesh with another human being, for me, it was now over. And maybe it's more the dishonesty than it is the action. And I really do think maybe it's more the dishonesty than anything else. You know what I mean? The fact that you started leaving the room and taking the call in the bathroom and we're living together, whereas that's not I think that's what broke things, but I'm not really sure. You know, but I think this conversation has given us all a lot to think about. You know, things aren't black and white, they aren't cut and dry. And I think that we are really fortunate to be part of a generation that's allowed to explore outside of the lines. Like, we don't have to color within the lines anymore. Our parents get upset. They don't like it, you know, but I really, really, you know, in last week's show, we were speaking about a number of things, like how we raise our kids. And basically all of us were just like, we've told our kids that they should be within a space where they're treated with dignity and respect, whatever that means for them. We're not imposing marriage. We're not imposing who you are attracted to, being heterosexual. Sexuality. It really is just wherever you are treated with dignity and respect and whatever makes you happy, ultimately. You know, so Z, thank you so much. I wish we had more time, but we really don't. Thank you so much for your contribution and for being so generous, and generous with yourself and so honest. I really feel like the conversations we have on this platform are really, really important. And I think maybe tonight there's someone out there, he's like, oh, I'm not just a cheat. I'm a lover of men. You know what I mean? I'm abundant. I'm an abundant lover. You know what I mean? And that maybe that's okay. And maybe it's not something that'll be easy to navigate, but there are other people who will navigate. And their groups, people sit and talk about it, and their communities. You know, and I think that's what's important. Z, where can we read your writing? Where can we have a look at your content? Anything?
It's Tula Kube on Facebook. It's Tula Kube on Instagram. I'm gonna follow me. I got a company, Akani Productions. And all the content I was talking about at the beginning is going to be coming out soon. So yeah, just follow me there and you'll see it come through, you know?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Join us again next week, Thursday, 8 p.m. We'll be having a lot more riveting conversation. I think a lot of people don't have alcohols anymore, but yeah, join us. And thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for engaging with us. Let's keep having conversation that matters, and have a good night. Bye.